You've probably heard it before, maybe from a supplement bottle, maybe from a documentary narrator with a deep, serious voice, maybe from a friend who swears it's true. Sharks don't get cancer. It sounds almost noble, like evolution handed one animal a golden ticket and forgot to hand it to the rest of us. For decades, this idea has floated around as an accepted fact, repeated so often that nobody thought to question it. But here's where things become interesting. It's not true. Not even a little. Sharks get cancer. They've gotten it in their skin, their gums, their jaws, their organs. Scientists have documented tumors in over 40 species of sharks and their relatives, with cases going all the way back to 1908. So if the science has been clear for over a century, why did an entire industry convince millions of people otherwise? That's the real mystery here, not whether sharks get cancer, but how a false idea managed to survive this long, spread this far, and cost this much, in dollars, in shark lives, and in something far more serious. So let's go back to where this started. In the 1970s, two researchers at Johns Hopkins were studying something called angiogenesis, the process by which tumors grow their own blood supply. Without new blood vessels, a tumor can't get the oxygen and nutrients it needs to keep expanding. Stop the blood vessels, and you might stop the cancer. The researchers noticed something curious. Cartilage, the flexible tissue found in joints and certain body structures, seemed to block this blood vessel growth in lab experiments. That was a legitimate, interesting finding. But then someone took it and ran in a completely different direction. Sharks, after all, have skeletons made almost entirely of cartilage. No bones. Just cartilage, from their skulls to their fins. Someone connected the dots. If cartilage blocks blood vessel growth, and sharks are made of cartilage, maybe sharks are naturally resistant to cancer. It was a leap. A big one. And it was about to get much bigger. In 1992, a man named Dr. William Lane published a book with a title that left no room for doubt: Sharks Don't Get Cancer. The book didn't just suggest that sharks were resistant to tumors. It claimed that sharks were basically immune, and that eating powdered shark cartilage could help treat cancer in humans. The claim spread like wildfire, which brings us to the part of the story that's genuinely hard to sit with. Desperate people believed it. Cancer patients, searching for anything that might help, started buying shark cartilage pills by the millions. An entire supplement industry sprang up almost overnight, built on a foundation that had never actually been tested in real patients. And the sharks paid the price. To meet demand, fisheries began targeting species like the spiny dogfish and various hammerheads specifically for their cartilage. Populations that had survived for hundreds of millions of years suddenly faced a new kind of pressure. Not from natural predators, but from a marketing claim. Here's the twist, though. While all of this was happening, scientists were quietly proving the opposite. Pathologists studying shark tissue kept finding tumors, malignant ones, benign ones, in the gums of blue sharks, in the mouths of great whites, including one specimen with a tumor roughly a foot long, in skates and rays, which are close relatives of sharks and share that same cartilage skeleton. If cartilage were some kind of cancer-blocking shield, none of this should have been possible. So why did the myth survive contact with all this contrary evidence? Partly because it was profitable. Books sell better with dramatic claims. Supplements sell better with hope attached to them. And partly because actually studying cancer in wild sharks is astonishingly difficult. Think about it this way. Sharks live across vast stretches of open ocean, far from easy observation. A sick or weakened shark doesn't get quietly monitored by a research team. It becomes a meal for other sharks, often quickly. Which means the shark scientists are most likely to study, tag, and examine tend to be the healthy ones. The sick ones simply disappear before anyone can document them. That's not evidence of immunity. That's a gap in the data, dressed up to look like immunity. There's something else working in sharks' favor too, and it has nothing to do with their cartilage. Many shark species live in the open ocean, far from coastlines, far from industrial runoff, far from the chemical pollutants that are strongly linked to cancer in humans and in near-shore marine life. Lower exposure to carcinogens could mean somewhat lower rates of certain cancers. Not zero, just possibly less than in animals living in more contaminated waters. That's a reasonable hypothesis. It is not the same as immunity, and it has nothing to do with eating cartilage pills. But even that isn't the whole story. There's a much stranger puzzle sitting underneath all of this, one that has nothing to do with cartilage and everything to do with basic math. Here's the puzzle. Cancer starts with a single mutation in a single cell. More cells means more chances for that mutation to happen. Longer lifespans mean more time for it to accumulate. So logically, a massive, long-lived animal should face dramatically higher cancer risk than a small, short-lived one. A blue whale has roughly 1,000 times more cells than a human. By that logic, whales should be dropping from tumors constantly. They're not. Neither are sharks. This mismatch even has a name. Scientists call it Peto's paradox, after the researcher who first pointed it out in the 1970s. And it turns out the ocean's largest animals may have quietly solved a problem that still baffles cancer researchers studying humans. Recent genetic research suggests sharks may carry one of the lowest germline mutation rates of any vertebrate on the planet. In plain terms, their DNA copies itself with unusually few errors, generation after generation. Fewer errors means fewer opportunities for a healthy cell to go rogue in the first place. Pair that with unusually efficient DNA repair systems, and you get an animal whose cells are simply harder to corrupt. Some researchers studying species like the Greenland shark, an animal that can live for centuries, longer than any other vertebrate known, have also found specialized immune cells and antimicrobial compounds circulating in shark blood, molecules capable of identifying and destroying abnormal cells before they ever become a tumor. It's a defense system built over hundreds of millions of years, and it has nothing to do with what their skeleton is made of, which is the real irony sitting at the center of this entire story. Shark biology genuinely might hold clues for future cancer research, just not the clue anyone thought they'd found in the 1970s. The real irony is that shark biology actually is worth studying for cancer research, just for entirely different reasons than a best-selling book once claimed. Some animals really do show remarkable cancer resistance. Elephants, for instance, carry extra copies of a gene involved in repairing damaged DNA, giving them a genuine biological advantage despite having far more cells than humans, which should statistically mean more risk, not less. Bowhead whales, which can live for 2 centuries, have unusually stable DNA repair systems. Sharks fit into this same picture: low mutation rates, sharp DNA repair, and immune systems built over an almost unimaginable evolutionary timescale. Comparative oncologists, scientists who study cancer across different species, still find shark biology worth investigating. But the honest, evidence-based version of that story is far less catchy than a book title promising a cure, which is exactly the problem. The true version of this story required nuance. The false version required none. And so the myth outlived the science for decades, sold as fact, repeated by well-meaning people who had no reason to doubt it. Meanwhile, the actual sharks, the ones the story was supposedly honoring, were being pulled from the ocean by the millions to fuel a market built on a foundation that was wrong from the very beginning. So next time someone tells you, sharks don't get cancer, you'll know the real answer. They do. They always have. The only thing that was ever immune here wasn't the shark. It was the myth.